All right, the NBA season is officially underway, so to speak, Bobby Manning, right? We're doing this, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Hayward, we've been fighting about it all week. Let's do it on the air.
No, it's true. So look, just catching everybody up at home, it's the Celtics really opening up training camp. It's December 1st, so the season's starting in a few weeks. It's a really fast-moving training camp. We got to hear from Danny Ainge, Brad Stevens, Jason Tatum, and of course with Ainge, the number one question on everybody's mind is what happened with the Gordon Hayward situation. We've been battling about this on the air, on text message. If there wasn't a pandemic, we're doing it in person and probably getting drunker as the night went on and screaming at each other over what went down here. And again, look, there's some finger pointing here because a lot of people want to know whether or not Danny Ainge botched this, so to speak. Yeah. We don't know. Okay. What we do know, and from Danny Ainge, a lot of the comments, and we'll read into some of the stuff here, is that plan A, and this is something I think we agreed on, Bobby. Yeah. One of the few things we agreed on, plan A, and what was probably best for the Celtics, even if they overpaid, was to bring Gordon Hayward back to Boston. And it seems very clear from listening to Danny Ainge that he tried to do that. That was option one, and Gordon did not want to return.
Yeah, which makes sense because we said the reason he didn't want to come back on that player option is it wouldn't give him the flexibility to choose his future destination. And Ainge said as much today. The issue they ran into with a sign and trade, they had 3 to 4 teams on the table they could possibly sign and trade him to. He had to accept it. So what confuses me still among all these different stories, you have the Pacers saying the Celtics were asking for too much. You have Ainge saying it wasn't enough today. And then you have Hayward saying you just want to move on to Charlotte, get into a bigger role, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different competing interests and storylines here. What confuses me, though, is if the Celtics wanted to keep Hayward, that first point we both agreed on, why are they doing all this shopping? Why are they shopping him for Drew Holiday, as we heard? Why is he being sign and trade shopped in all these different places instead of a real negotiation about keeping him here? That's my question for Ainge.
I think what's clear, and again, it's really hard, so you're going to have to speculate and read into things. It sounds to me like though the Celtics wanted Hayward back, I think it became increasingly clear to Danny listening to him talk today, and even Hayward when he spoke, even Stevens when he spoke about him earlier. The vibe was there that this was not that, and so the question really comes down to whether or not, knowing that they could and should have swung something to Indiana, or Charlotte was there the whole time. There was tampering. He was talking to them. He knew it was there. It's still not clear. And again, it's just wild speculation to say how it went down. That's something we're not going to know. I think, again, there's going to be a group of fans that wonders, and what makes sense to me is if Charlotte came out of nowhere, came in late, and Danny wasn't expecting it, that he probably had to find a way to make that Indiana trade work in some capacity. But because he always wanted Gordon back, he's thinking, well, if there's nobody out there, maybe he'll just have to resign, and that's that, if it was always an option. If Charlotte was there the whole time, there's really nothing that could have been done here. And that's the question. Is it's really hard to say whether it's what we're not going to know is if Indiana was done in some capacity and then presented to Gordon, would he have taken whatever they were offering there, 102 to 108 to 110, over Charlotte? Not clear. Or did he just say Charlotte when it was obvious Danny's not getting this thing done with Indiana? He's going to futz around with them forever, and that's going to end up with me coming back here, and I don't want that, so I'm going to Charlotte, which I think is also possible, but it's really hard to say.
It seems likely Charlotte was always in. They had no other prospects to getting any other major free agents there, certainly. So I think that's something that's always on the table. Ainge said they were always there today. Indiana, though, that's what still gives me the ability to give Boston the benefit of the doubt, because Hayward was holding out on that situation clearly with the extension.
Exactly.
You had negotiations ongoing there. Charlotte was certainly always going to be interested in him, and he could have made that decision on the first day of free agency. Instead, we're sitting there on a Saturday or Sunday, whichever day it was, and we just get the news out of nowhere. So someone dropped negotiations here in this Indiana situation. It seems very likely Hayward always wanted to go there but couldn't get there because those deals didn't go through. It seemed likely that the Celtics wanted to do that. Indiana certainly did. Pritchard admitted that they wanted Hayward bad. So someone dropped this, and I think it was the Celtics. I think the return wasn't great enough.
That's what I keep coming back to. And that's the thing is, again, now we're going to spend the rest of our time debating whether or not Tristan Thompson and a trade exception that they may or may not use is better than.
Well, let me read this quote from him today. They said on the radio this morning, it had to be a trade we wanted, not a trade just to let Hayward go where he wanted to go. It had to be good for the Celtics, for our business, for our luxury tax, for our personnel, and the cost of contracts. To me, that says they didn't want Miles Turner. They didn't want to go into the tax to pay Miles Turner. They didn't feel getting Turner alone for Hayward was enough. And I agree.
Look, and if that's the rationale, again, then you can debate. Miles come home, good basketball decision, bad basketball decision. That's not clear. I think where people get stuck in this conversation, in this debate, is if Danny could have been more aggressive to get the thing done before that window opened and you allowed a Charlotte to walk through the door. And that's where I'm going to keep coming back to that 2-day window. That 2-day window says a lot. It clearly says that, and again, this is why we keep coming back to it. If Charlotte was there all along and no matter what, because they were going to offer the most amount of money, they were going to win, then there is no sense in doing the extension. The extension only makes sense to give them more time to make that trade. It doesn't, there's nothing else that's plausible. It's again, and everything being said today is, I said Gordon Hayward spoke today and he said, I told my agent to get it done. I think they knew that was an option, but they wanted Indiana to work.
Everybody wanted that to work.
And when it was clear it wasn't, he didn't want to come to Boston, so he said, get that thing done. And so, again, you don't know. It could have been, everyone's going to point at Danny and say, oh, he played hardball. Maybe the Pacers played too much hardball, and they wouldn't move at all. They made their first offer and nothing. It's hard to say. You can't say whose fault that broke down. But what's clear is they had 2 days to not dick around with each other and get the deal done. If Indiana really wanted it and Boston really wanted it, that thing had to be done before in that extension window. And as soon as they got to Thursday and it was open season, all bets were off. And that's what happened.
So this will be decided by that player exception that they have now that they'll carry into this year that they can possibly use next offseason. That's going to very likely dictate whether this Hayward proceeding was a success or a failure. It's hard to read that right now too. Only time's going to tell on that. But I still look at getting Tristan Thompson over Miles Turner as a win. And if you read the Washburn specifics of the trade there, whether it's just going to be Turner and some first round picks or Turner and TJ Warren or Turner and Oladipo, I still like the idea of Tristan Thompson, a possible future addition to this team in that exception over any of the packages there, frankly. You know why Indiana comes out of this saying that we offered enough? Because they wanted to get rid of all this stuff. Oladipo's an expiring contract, a hurt player. Miles Turner's a player that's fallen behind Sabonis in their rotations. They were willing to do anything they could to get rid of a lot of these players, but they were expensive, they're uncertain products, and I'm not necessarily sure it was worth the Celtics to go into the luxury tax and get a smaller mid-level and all that stuff, rather than just figure things out on the side.
This is the other thing we don't know. We don't know if Danny actually kind of liked the Turner deal enough, but was just trying to goose it for more. And now in the back end is saying, we didn't really like what was out there. Otherwise, we would have made a trade. You don't know that. That's the thing. And that's what we'll never know. This is every GM does this. Every fantasy football GM does this. You have trades, you want to sweeten them a little bit. You hold out hope. You hold on to your guy. You think the deal's going to get better. You turn around and the guy you wanted got traded to someone else. And you're like, I should have taken it.
I'm good with that. I do that well in my league. They call me the trade master.
That's normal though. You wait around and you think you can make it a little better, thinking that you're the only one they're dealing with. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, did that just happen? So again, it's going to be hard to know, but these are the perils of being an NBA GM. It's a really high stakes game of poker with these guys. You don't know exactly how it's going to play out. You have to be prepared to gamble. Again, make another analogy. You walk in to buy a car, you're negotiating. You got to be able to run the table and walk away, even if you really want the car. I mean, and again, this is what you do. You play this game of chicken here. And it's possible both Danny and Indiana played it, and that's that. Now I want to switch to Hayward. Listening to him talking, the only thing clear from listening to Gordon and Danny today is Danny knew Gordon didn't want to be here and Gordon didn't want to be here. And again, it's hard to say whether it was the city, whatever it was, but it seems like
the role was the big thing, having the ball in his hands,
coming
that
back
kind of stuff.
to the fit. And I think above all else, being a fourth wheel and not being able to be a star when he has been a star at every stage of his career in his life, and to come here and to play second or third fiddle to Kyrie, the injury bad luck, and then when he's finally healthy, he's like, oh, by the way, here's 3 superstars that we have ahead of you in the pecking order. And that's a tough one for him. Again, did it. He was deferential. He played within his role. And for a couple of months this season, saw what this could have worked, what this could have looked like with all of these guys working together. But it didn't. We didn't get to see it for long. He got hurt again, got hurt in the playoffs. The team fell short of its goal, and now he's going to go be big man on campus in Charlotte here and try to rekindle that Gordon Hayward all-star flame that he had going on in Utah. Whether he does or doesn't, I'm not sure, but certainly he's going to get more opportunity too.
But both sides seem satisfied with the breakup. Maybe not exactly how it went down. Hayward's probably wishing he was in Indiana. Boston's probably wishing they had more to show for him in the end. But I think they're both glad to get a fresh start here. It never worked out. As we said a couple episodes ago, he was the remnant of that Kyrie core that quickly fell apart, left the team, and now they're on to a new core. They're on to a new plan. They're on to a new trajectory here. It didn't seem to fit him. I wish they made it work. I wish they came to an agreement. But ultimately, we wanted to see him take less money, play a smaller role, and have it be better for the Celtics. But none of those things were going to be better for Hayward. And he said today in his press conference, he still feels like he's in the prime of his career. He'll be the guy in Charlotte with the ball in his hands, taking all the shots, maybe leading them to the playoffs. It's going to be a play-in tournament this year, so 10 teams have a chance to make the playoffs in the East. So he'll be right in the middle of everything there, and all the power to him. I liked him in Boston. I thought he gave them a lot last year. Nobody's going to blame him for the injuries. They're in a tough spot the way he left with what's left over and what they need right now. But what are you going to do? They just have to make the best of it on both ends.
Yeah, so we'll get into a lot more of that. The what now from Hayward. Again, summarize, I think, the clear in Hayward's press conference on Tuesday, Danny Ainge, Brad Stevens. Celtics knew Gordon didn't be here. Gordon didn't want to be here. Indiana was the number one option for both sides. It would appear they could not make that work in the time allotted. Charlotte was the best thing left. He took it. He gets more money.
They couldn't do 30 either. Like they just, as much as we wanted him back, they just couldn't.
I still think, and I'll go down till my last breath, that Gordon Hayward is not worth $30 million at this stage in his career on this team, but it was a better move for the Celtics to pay him that. If money alone would have done it, I get the feeling again from listening to Hayward, listening to everybody, it wasn't the money. He was done with Boston. He wanted Celtics to make it work in Indiana, or somewhere else. It didn't. Charlotte was the next best thing. He took it. That's it. I think people killing Danny from not squeezing out a couple more bucks. I don't think that's what happened. I think it was
years
over.
Too, though. 4 years. Like
I think it was over. That's the thing, is the only thing I'm not going to fault Danny. The only thing you're going to say about the situation with Danny is, was there more he could have done, and should he have just taken good enough instead of holding out for great, or did he truly just hate it? I don't know. That's the thing we don't know. I think making it work was the best case scenario for all parties, but Hayward clearly was all set with Boston, and that's that. I don't think it was money.
What we get back to here, whether you wanted Thompson, whether you wanted Turner, they're taking a step back this year, and would have been worth mortgaging the future flexibility to get more out of this year, more out of next year, because they're clearly going to be a team again, probably more so than last year, that's half ready to win a championship.
Hayward could still be tradable at $30 million, Bobby, for an expiring. That's the whole thing. Is like
depending on how does he get hurt again? Does he start declining? Like it all could go south fast.
But the thing is that he's the same guy at 25 as he is 30. He's tradable at 25. He's tradable at 30, or he's productive at 25, or he's productive at 30. At that point, the extra few million doesn't matter. If you were willing to go for and whatever, I still think the overpay was the best strategy.
That's a fair point.
I don't think it mattered. This wasn't one of those where if Danny just got to this number. So again, we could go on forever. I just want to tell people at home one more time, we're live on Wednesday night, 8 p.m.
It's going to get hot.
And it's going to get hot. I think we've calmed down a little. But it could get heated with Jimmy Toscano, Josue Pavone. I want to tell you again, our sponsor, Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, enter the code GARDEN20, get 20% off and free shipping. Once again, 20% off free shipping with the code GARDEN20 at manscaped.com. For Bobby Manning, I'm John Zannis. This has been the Garden Report. We will see you all later.